Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Fred Speaks. I pray this podcast finds you in the best of health and spirits. Welcome, friends. This is Fred, the host of Fred Speaks. I am super excited about this episode of the Fred Speaks podcast. The topic for this episode is crossroads. I was looking at the definition of crossroads. It's the point at which an important choice has to be made. And if I hit a crossroad, I feel like I should know which way to go. And I may try and go that way, but I won't stop wondering about the other paths that were there. And maybe you've been in that situation where you kind of, you feel like you know and you make the decision, but then now you're like, maybe I should have done this, or I should have, chose this other direction. So then crossroads are scary, but yet enticing because they're full of opportunity. But even if the dangers may be non-existent, the choices feel dreadful to make, and they hang over our heads before, during, and even after a decision has been made. And I would like to discuss 3 approaches or ways to deal with crossroads. And the first is make a major change. And I know when you're at that crossroad, it's kind of like, man, it's scary. And you definitely don't want to make the wrong decision. But there comes a time where, in order to bring about the change that you want, and I don't know about you, but there's been times in my life where I felt, and it just stayed with me, that I needed to make a major change, that a major change needed to occur in my life. And making a major change is hard because you may not be able to exactly pinpoint the decisions that would cause a major change. What we do know is that major changes are things like accepting a new job opportunity, leaving your current job, ending a relationship, or moving away from home. And I was thinking about that, moving away from home. And I remember at times in my life where, I moved away from home. I moved away from my, comfort zone, and moved to a place where, I never lived, that wasn't like up the street or around the corner, but moved to a whole nother state. And that was major. It was exciting, but at the same time, there was thoughts of I don't know what to expect or what's going to happen. But I made the change, and it was major. It was a major decision to move away. And however, some major changes are invisible and come without anticipation. So then there's changes that will come in our lives that we have no control over. We didn't have any say so in the matter. It happened, and it dictated, the path that we would, go down at that point, because it was, a major change. It disrupted our flow, the path that we were looking to go, or what we had planned for our lives. And then something, happens. So major changes still lie mainly in our hands. We still have, God didn't make us creatures of, or make us in a way that we didn't have, the ability to make a choice. So major changes still lie in our hands and can be taken whenever we want, even if it doesn't feel like the right time. Making a decision that changes our lifestyle makes us feel in control. And I think that's one of the things, is that as human beings, we don't like to feel like we're not in control. It frustrates us. It causes anxiety, causes stress when we feel like we have no control and things are just happening in our lives. So when we do have the opportunity, and when you're at that crossroad and you feel that there is a major change that needs to occur, we do have some control over that. And crossroads can be approached lightly, but heading straight for it at full force may make the best path even better. Sometimes you want to slowly, cautiously, but sometimes you need to just go for it. And I think that's something that a lot of times we don't want to go full force. We kind of just want to ease into it. But there's a possibility that we could force the crossroad to give us the best path. If you don't slam into the crossroads and force a path, the path may be chosen for you, and you may not always get the one that benefits you the most. So again, you may be trying to be cautious about the major change, and then all of a sudden something happens, and now you are on a path that it's like, oh man, this is not the path that I envision for myself. And the next approach is act before you think. And I know there's people like, no, that's not the way to do it. Everyone knows thinking before you act is how things should be done, with caution. For some situations, that is the way to go. But having not taken action when the chance was presented to us, we may stick to the same old path we are on right now, even if the decision is now or never. So here we are, we're at that crossroad, and it's kind of like, oh, let me think about it. 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 But maybe the best approach is to act before you think. And thinking about an opportunity doesn't guarantee that you can still take that opportunity with unlimited time. Sometimes we feel like, oh, if I just think about it, I think about it. And I've had situations where I've told someone or, about something that I was looking to either purchase or get involved with or whatever. And I was like, let me think about it. Let me think about it. And then the time ran out. And then when I was ready, the opportunity was gone. So thinking about an opportunity doesn't guarantee you can still take that opportunity with unlimited time. Anything can happen, and any thing can be revoked. So, it was there today, but tomorrow it can be gone. And acting before you think gives you time to think about that action after it has been done. Thinking before you act can give you the anxiety of whether or not to do it. So, thinking about it, you're stressing about it. You're just going back and forth, and you're just not in a good state of, you find yourself basically back and forth on whether to do something or not. Even if the benefits outweigh the negative, not taking the opportunity makes it harder to force yourself to later on. So, when you're sitting there thinking about it and it's right there in front of you, like this is, the benefits are good if you go this direction or whatever. But you don't take the opportunity, and now, it's harder to go ahead and do it later on. In any case, acting before you think gets you somewhere with immediate results, whereas thinking before leaves you where you are, and you're left to imagine the place you could have gone to had you made the decision instead of overthinking it. So, acting before you're thinking, it at least gets you moving. Whereas if you're just thinking and just overthinking, and you find yourself in the same place and you haven't moved, you're still at that crossroad and you haven't moved, you're still the same place. And our brains aren't always thinking things through for our benefit. We don't always think about what's best for us. We want to stay comfortable, and comfort gets us nowhere. And you've heard the term, phrase about getting out of, your comfort zone. And a lot of times that's the reason why we can't move forward, is because we are so comfortable in where we are. We know we need a change, but we're not willing to act. And so we find ourselves staying where we feel most comfortable. But don't give your brain the time to think a decision through if it may lead to overthinking. Make the decision for it. So go for it, act before thinking. And you'll find yourself at least getting some movement, some momentum to making change. And the last thing I would like to discuss is backtrack. And I know nobody likes to backtrack. Nobody likes to backtrack. But backtracking has a kind of bad reputation for being seen as having had a failure and having to go back to where you were before. That is not the case. Beneficial backtracking is another path of opportunity. Maybe the decision you're in between isn't something you thought you would have to make, and you see better opportunity where you came from. Backtrack to it. Backtracking may not always be possible, but in cases where it is possible, and if it is necessary, it should be considered as an option. Now, I know nobody likes to go back, but I think about something, especially like when it comes to a job or, relationship or, different things in life that, you know, I would always hear people say, don't burn your bridges, because there comes a time where you may have to go back to something. And it's not a bad thing. I know we look at it as bad, like I've been there, done that. I don't want to have to go back to that. But for example, in a relationship, it may not be that you're going back to be in a relationship with someone, with that person, but you may have to backtrack, and there may be an opportunity where the person can help you with some other things that you may be doing in life, and you may need their help or assistance. But if you burn that bridge, and every relationship you've been in has ended so badly that there is no way that you're going to be able to backtrack. Or if there's a job that you were able to, not that you left on bad terms, but you sought better opportunities and you were able to move on, but because you had a good rapport with them, that if an opportunity came up that, hey, I feel that this position or whatever, that it would be beneficial. So being able to backtrack is not always how people view it, as it's bad to have to backtrack. Having taken an opportunity and not thoroughly enjoying it, there was still experience gain. So even though you took action, and now it didn't work out. It didn't work out. So but you were able to gain experience from it. You're able to learn from it. The only loss in backtracking is time. Yes, especially when it comes to, you take a new job and you spend 5 years on this job and you're not happy with it or whatever. And, so you've lost some time, but, and even then, maybe going back and taking another path would not have been clear if you hadn't taken the first path. So backtracking isn't 100% backtracking. You're always still progressing, even if it may not feel like it. That can be part of the process. And so in our minds, we're like, oh, I'm backtracking, I'm going backwards. But sometimes that may be part of the process to get you where you need to be. So don't look at backtracking as in a negative light, but you can look at it in a positive way that, it is part of the process to get me to where I need to be. And so then hitting a crossroad or hitting crossroads is intimidating, because we may see paths or what lies on the other side may be completely invisible. Regardless, we have a gut feeling with what we want to go to. The hard part is taking those first steps and becoming determined to go down it. And so, the three approaches or options that I have given, I must say this, that in all that we do, we must acknowledge God. And sometimes God can be giving us, trying to let us know this is okay. It's okay to go this route or whatever. But because we are afraid of the unknown, if I take this path, I don't know what's going to happen. Or if I move and then, I get to this new place or whatever, and everything just falls apart. And I think that, when it comes to change in our lives, that we can't, sit back and just always feel like, it's too scary, or it's, what if it doesn't work? Life, it's something that we have to, take head on, because, as I mentioned, if we don't, there's going to be some things that are going to happen and we won't have any control over it at all. So then when it comes to things that we do have control, whether it's taking a new job or moving or starting a new relationship or ending a relationship, we do have some control in those things. And so then we should not, find ourselves in that same typical, hey, this is what I'm comfortable with, and not making any progress. And year after year after year after year, you find yourself in the same place. You're not growing. You basically become stagnant, and you're still at that crossroad. You're afraid to make a decision. And so I pray that everyone that listening was able to get something out of this podcast. And I would like to encourage you to join us for another episode of Fred Speaks.